Wasawea Hune, Sinkit Ninja Ka Sankhataya. In this video, I would like to show you some of the search options available to you in the Adobe Acrobat line of products. I will be using Dr. Unei Lance Twitchell's Slinkit Dictionary, and the emphasis of this video is to search for Slinkit words in this dictionary. Dr. Unei is an associate professor of Alaska Native Languages at the University of Alaska Southeast. A detailed bio for Dr. Unei can be found if you follow this URL. In addition to teaching the Tlingit language and culture at UAS, Dr. Unei has provided a myriad of resources for us to use while we work to achieve higher degrees of fluency. Provided here is a link to his website where you can download the latest version of the Tlingit dictionary. If you are interested in learning more about the Tlingit language, I encourage you to explore his website, as there are many useful resources that can assist you on your Tlingit language journey. For the purposes of this video, I'm assuming that you have already downloaded and installed a version of Adobe Acrobat, and that you have at least a basic knowledge of navigating PDF documents. And I assume that you have some way to write diacritics for the Tlingit language, which I will go over a little later in this video. PDF stands for Portable Document Format. The word portable means that it can be opened on many different operating systems or platforms, like Windows and Mac OS X, and it also means that it can be opened on many different devices, like personal computers, tablets, and phones. The format was originally developed in Adobe in 1993, and later was adapted as an international standard by the International Organization on Standardization, or ISO. The original intent of developing the format was to develop a technology that would enable offices to go paperless. Adobe has provided a free version of the product called Adobe Acrobat Reader, which enables you to read PDF documents, but has limited ability to produce or edit them. The paid-for versions of Adobe Acrobat provide advanced navigation tools and allow you to create and edit PDF documents. Many different features have been added to Adobe Acrobat that enable you to have increased functionality when working with PDF documents. One of the features that has seen many enhancements over time are the search features, which is what will be the focus of this video. At this time, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the contributors to this Tlingit dictionary. Many of the names you see here are the elders and birth speakers that have made phenomenal contributions to the Tlingit language revitalization efforts. Their work has provided us with priceless information, and with the hard work of people like Dr. Unei, language revitalization advocates now have resources available to them that will benefit the language revitalization efforts as we put the language back onto the land for which it belongs. Yak we Adobe search options. All right. I will now tell you about the Adobe Acrobat search options. To start, I would like to point out a couple things. First, as you can see on the screen right now, I have the first page of the dictionary pulled up, but the page doesn't fit the whole screen. If you look at the top of the viewing pane, you should be able to see the page controls towards the middle of the toolbar. If you can't see the page controls, you can go to the View menu, go down to the Show Hide option, go to Page Controls, and select Show Page Controls. My option says Hide Page Controls because the Page Controls toolbar is already open for me. In the middle, you see this percentage number, and if you click the drop down there, you can zoom in at whatever percentage you want directly. So 800 is just a little too much. I like to utilize the Reading Mode option for my zooming. So if you pick this Fit to Width scrolling, it fits the page so you maximize the real estate. You're not able to see a whole page at once, but it's easier for me to read using this reading mode. If you look to the right, you will see some advanced controls. Most of these controls are only available for you to use if you own a paid-for version of Adobe Acrobat. Since we won't be using those, I will go ahead and hit this arrow at the bottom of the toolbar, and it will push it to the left of the screen, like this. This gives us a little bit more real estate and is a little less distracting. One of the most basic search options in Adobe Acrobat are the thumbnails and bookmarks. These options appear as a toolbar located to the left side of your screen. If you can't see them, you might have to expand the bar itself, which you do by pressing the arrow located toward the middle left. Once expanded, you will see three icons. The first of which is the thumbnails icon, and if you click the icon, it will expand the thumbnails viewing pane. What you see in the pane are miniature pictures or thumbnails that represent each of the pages in the document. If you select any of the pages, it will take you directly to that page, like so. Sometimes you will know which page you're looking for, and this is one way you can get there quickly. The next icon is the bookmarks icon, and if you select it, it opens the bookmarks viewing pane. Now, Dr. Unei has done a really good job of organizing his documents utilizing these bookmarks. If you take your mouse cursor and hover over one of the entries, let's use parts of speech for this example, you will see a line that appears under the text. This line is very similar to a hot link that you will find on web pages. If you click the parts of speech, it will take you to the beginning of the parts of speech section. This section describes some of the basic components of the Tlingit language and is a good starting place if you are new to the language, and it's also a good reference tool if you have a higher degree of linguistic fluency. The first 5 bookmarks are informational in nature. They give you some detailed information about the dictionary and how it works. The last 3 bookmarks are actually groups of bookmarks, and these are great navigation tools to get you started. If you hover over the word Tlingit and click it, it takes you to the title page for that section. If you look to the left of the Tlingit bookmark, you can see this little arrow. When you click it, it opens up a whole group of bookmarks. So if we select one of these bookmarks, the A bookmark, you can see that it takes us to the head or the beginning of entries that start with the letter A. Now this Tlingit section represents parts of speech in Tlingit, things like particles and nouns and adverbs, but it doesn't contain verbs. So if we go ahead and collapse the Tlingit bookmark group, and hit the hot link for Tlingit ye dadunei ut, it takes us to the title page for the Tlingit ye dadunei ut section. Now this phrase basically translates to verbs. So if we hit the arrow next to it, we can see that it reveals a group of bookmarks available to us, and you can tell that these are verbs and stems because it has that square root symbol next to it. So if I select that bookmark, it takes us to the head of the entries that start with the letter AA. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse that group, and then we'll go down to the last group. I'll click that hot link, and it takes us to the title page. Now this basically translates to English in Tlingit. So if I hit that arrow, we see a group of bookmarks revealed. And if I just go ahead and select the A, it takes us to the head of entries for the words that start with A. And this time you can see that it is actually English that they list first. In the beginning, it is easier to use the English version. But if you want to internalize the Tlingit language, it is important that you do as best as you can to search in terms of Tlingit. That is, if you search in Tlingit, you are thinking in Tlingit, and once you are thinking in Tlingit, the leap from reading to speaking becomes much more accomplishable. I like to call it Tlingitizing the way you think. Now that we have covered the basics for navigation when using this dictionary, let's move on to the search options. In Adobe, they have a Find and Replace dialog box that serves as a basic search option when looking for words within Acrobat. So let's go ahead and shrink this back down so we can maximize our real estate here. To open the Find dialog box, you can come up to this Edit menu, and towards the bottom of the list you'll see this Find option. It has a little magnifying glass next to it. Notice to the right you have Control+F, and that's the shortcut menu to open the Find dialog box. In Mac it'll be Command F. So if you click it, it opens this Find dialog box for us. Notice you can grab it and it moves from the right to the left. So just depending on your preferences, or maybe it's in your way, you can slide it out of your way if you like. Once you have it open, you will see the Find label towards the left, the text box directly underneath that, then the previous and next buttons, and at the very bottom there's this Replace With drop down. Since we're not going to be editing the document, we'll just leave that Replace With alone. Let's look for our first word. I think the Linkit word for box is a good place to start. I will type the word box in the text box, which in Linkit is spelled like so. Underline K, acute accent OO, regular K. Before pressing enter, I think now would be a good time to go over a component of the Linkit orthography, or Linkit written language. In Tlingit, we utilize diacritics within our orthography. So now I'm going to jump into my browser really quick, type in the word diacritic, and press enter. So I use Google Chrome, and many times when you type in just a word, just one word, it will bring up the meaning for the word that you typed in. And in Chrome, it seems to default to these definitions from the Oxford Dictionary, Oxford Languages Dictionary. So if I zoom in a little bit, we can see the definition for diacritic, which reads, a sign, such as an accent or sedilia, which when written above or below a letter indicates a difference in pronunciation from the same letter when unmarked or differently marked. If that was a little blah blah for you, basically, the little marks you see on some of the letters change the way the letter would normally sound. In the English orthography, we don't use these diacritics in our normal written activities. You will often see them as part of the pronunciation respelling in dictionaries, usually directly to the right or to the bottom of the main entries, as you see here. In the pronunciation respelling of this word, you can see a diacritic above the letter I, which means that this vowel has the long vowel sound for I, which coincidentally makes the sound I. Now getting back to the Tlingit dictionary, I utilize both of the diacritics that are used in the Tlingit orthography in our first word, kook, the underline mark and the acute accent mark. If you don't already have a method for writing these diacritics, there are several tools available to do so, which is beyond the scope of this video. I utilize the keyboard map from Language Geek at this address. So I've typed the word for box in Tlingit, which is kook, and if I want to search for that in this document, I can either press enter or the next button. So we'll just go ahead and press the next button. When I do so, it takes us to the first place it finds this word. Before we look at the first entry, I would like to point out a couple things on the Find dialog box. To the right of the word Find, you will see a number that looks like a fraction in parentheses. The first number you see, which in this case is a 1, stands for the number of the entry you are currently looking at, which in this case is the first entry. Directly after this number is a / and the number 108. The second number stands for how many entries were found that match the word you typed in the text box. So for this word, there were 108 entries found. If you look at the words that it found below, you will see 3 words on the same line that are highlighted in blue. The entry that is currently selected is the one that is of a darker shade of blue, which you can see here. If we press the next button, it takes us to the next entry, and you can tell which entry that is because it will be shaded that darker shade of blue. Let's take a better look at what it found. The spelling of the word for box in Tlingit is underline K, acute accent OO, regular K. But the first entry is spelled underline K, regular OO, underline K. Remember, the diacritics change the way that words sound and also what the word means. In other words, the Find tool found an incorrect match. Wanachsa. Well, Adobe Acrobat has some default settings that tell it to ignore those diacritics. You can actually change those settings so that when searching for words in documents, it will recognize those diacritics. If you go to the Edit menu and go down to the last selection and select Preferences, it opens up the Preferences dialog box. Within the Categories section, select the Search option, and it reveals the Search Preferences. And within this first block here, you will see one that's labeled Ignore Diacritics and Accents. Remember that this is the behavior that we saw when we searched for kook. It didn't recognize the diacritics. This is the default behavior of Adobe Acrobat. That is because for our region, Adobe Acrobat has been Anglicized. Now, we want to Thlinkitize it, And we can do that by unchecking this box and pressing the OK button. So I will retype the word Coke and press enter. Remember the numbers next to find? Notice that the entries found has been reduced to 45. So it reduced the amount of entries by over half, and now the search is a little bit more efficient. In this case, it found the compound noun achikok, which is radio, phonograph, stereo, music box, iPod, music device, in Tlingi. I don't know about Chastakut Yuhan, but when I figured this out, I was like, Dasa! This will make looking for Tlingit spelling of words extremely more efficient. Tlikudzi. So we will go ahead and hit the next button a couple times to get to the specific entry for Coke or box in Tlingi. There we go. This is a great option if you're looking for words for written material or you know exactly how to spell the word in Tlingit. It is also a great training tool for learning how to spell accurately. There are a couple more things I would like to show you before we move on to the advanced search options. In the text box where you enter the words you are looking for, there is a little gear symbol. If you hover over it and click it, it opens up a menu that provides you with a few more options. The first one reads Find Next in Current PDF, and this is equivalent to pressing the Next button. And the next one is Open Full Acrobat Search, and this will open the Advanced Search Options dialog box. And then there's a line, and then below it there's 4 other selections you can make. These last two include bookmarks and include comments. They enable you to look specifically or include those in your search. They don't really help you when you're searching for Tlingit words in this dictionary, so we're just going to leave those alone for now. And we're going to focus on these next two. Now, before I click next, notice that we have the word Coke here, and they're all by themselves, right? And then we have this word here, Coqueton, which stands for People of the Box House. Now, this is a proper name, and you can see that there's no space between the word Coke and the rest of this word, Hitton. So I've selected whole words only. I'm going to go ahead and press next. Now look, it removed the Coqueton selection as part of the results. And if you look up to the find, right next to the find label here, you can see that the number was reduced from 41 to 45. So this is another way that you can enhance your search and make it a little bit more efficient as you're looking for things. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back up to the gear symbol, select it, and this time we're going to go ahead and add case sensitive to our search. And I'll go ahead and press next. And you can see next to the find number here that it refined this search value here. And basically what it did is it took out all the proper names. And when we click the whole words only, it took it out too. So both of those options selected help you refine your search results and can make looking for words a lot more efficient. Now I'd like to show you the advanced search options. There are a couple ways to get there, one of which was this open full Acrobat search. And the other is to go to Edit and come down to where the find entry was, and then just below it there's this advanced search, and that'll open the advanced search option dialog box, and you can see the shortcut command next to it, Shift Control F, and if you're working on a Mac that would be Shift Command F. So I'll go ahead and open it, and it opens up this advanced search dialog box. And right now it's opened as a floating box, what we call a floating dialog box. And basically that means you can move it around on the screen. But as it is floating, it just placed it right on top of our document here, which basically is getting in the way. So if you look at that first button right there, it says Arrange Windows, and you click it. Look what it did. It pushed the search options dialog box to the left of the screen and gave it its own space, and simultaneously pushed the viewing pane for the document to the right and gave it its own space. This is pretty handy. If you have two screens that you work with, it might be helpful to go ahead and just take that floating box and put it on a different screen, and then you can maximize the pane, the viewing pane here, and thus maximize your real estate. It just depends on how you want to work. We'll just go ahead and leave it like this and go through the options that we see here. The next one is the look in option, and this option is only available for those that have the paid for versions of the product like Pro. You won't be able to use this if you have the Acrobat Reader option. Um, we won't we won't go into that. We won't utilize that. But basically, what it does is it allows you to point at a folder, and you can look through several documents at once. So maybe you have 3 or 4 Tlingit dictionaries you want to look at. You can click the file folder where those dictionaries are at and look through them all at once. But again, that's in the paid for version of the product. So the next thing you'll see is the what word or phrase would you like to search for? And this is equivalent to the find dialog box or the find text box over here. This is where you type the words in you're looking for. The one below that is the return results containing. And if you hit the drop down arrow, you can see you have 2 different selections here. Most of the times you'll be looking for this match exact word or phrase, which we'll go over next. And then I'll quickly go over this match any of the words. Basically, just like it says, match exact word or phrase. So it's going to find exact matches only. And this other one is match any of the words. So if you have more than one word typed into this text box, it'll find all the places where it sees each and every one of those words. The next section is the use these additional criteria selections. And if you'll notice, these first 2 look very similar to what we have over here in the find search dialog box. In fact, these 2 are checked, and when we open the advanced search dialog box, these 2 were selected by default. Now below this we have 5 other criteria to select. So I'll go over these last 3 really quick. Of course, include bookmarks, include comments, include attachments. Those are all things that don't have information that is useful for the way we use this dictionary. So we won't go over them. If you select them, you basically include them in your search. These next 2 are grayed out. And I actually tried this proximity one and it doesn't work. I read that it basically is only utilized if you're going to be searching multiple documents or documents that have indices, and this one doesn't have an index, so of course it wouldn't provide you any extra results. The one below that, the stemming one, as a linguist, I got a little excited when I saw that because I know that for Tlingit verbs, the verb root is part of the verb theme, and it's called a stem. So when searching English documents, Adobe has the capability of recognizing all forms of words that are associated to the stem. So perhaps you're trying to search for the word opening, but you want to find all forms of the words that utilize the stem for open. So if you select this one and type in opening here, it will find all the different ones associated to the open stem. Now you'll have to unselect these 2 to get it to open up the option to be able to select it. But unfortunately, this option has not been Tlinkitized. From what I was reading, there's a way that you can program your documents as you're setting them up so that it will recognize the stem, which is pretty exciting, but beyond the scope of this video. So let's go ahead and search for a word utilizing this advanced search dialog box. And before we go on, I just want to show you something that I found out when searching Tlingit words in this dictionary. So we're going to change the word we're looking for to kaye, And if I press enter here for this word, there's no search results. But I know the word kayak is in this dictionary. But obviously you can see 0 documents, 0 instances. Why didn't it find it? So if we go back to new search here, there's an apostrophe that's included after this word. It's actually included after this letter L here, and it stands for pinched L. And that's that sound that you hear at the end of this word, kayak. And it's a part of our written orthography, but it hasn't been programmed in the document yet so that it recognizes that this is a part of that word. So you have to ignore any of the pinches if you want it to find it, at least at the end of the word. So if I press search now, you can see that we have a results set here. Now remember that little arrow that we had before? It denotes a grouping of things. Well, this first entry here is actually the file path for the document that we're currently looking in. And below it, you will find the different entries that match that search. So if we hover over the first one and select it, it brings us directly to the kayak entry. And you can see the definition for that is peace or calm. I'd like to share one more trick with you. As mentioned earlier, Dr. Unei utilizes the square root symbol to denote verb roots and stems. Most keyboards do not have a square root symbol available on the keyboard. So if you know you are looking for a root or stem specifically, you may want a way to type that square root symbol to include as part of your search. Now here's a little Tlingi Ninja trick that you can use in Adobe Acrobat. So all the characters that can be recognized as characters by a computer are represented in their visual or naturally written form for our use. In other words, if you type the letter A, you see the letter A typed in your text box. But the computer speaks an entirely different language. Usually there is more than one layer of translations that are happening between the character you read on the screen and the character that the computer understands. These translations decode what you visually see into numbers that the computer understands. Adobe utilizes several different encoding sets to represent characters in their documents, and one of those sets is the ASCII encoding set. ASCII stands for American Standard Code for Information Interchange. I apologize if this dialect of Techno Ninja was a little confusing, but basically, not all characters that you can write within Adobe documents are on your keyboard, although there is a shortcut that enables you to type them if you know the character encoding number. For the ASCII character encoding set, the square root symbol is represented by the number 251. If you want to type things into the search bar using ASCII codes, you first press the Alt button, or Option button if you're on a Mac, then press the ASCII code number for the letter or symbol you want to enter, and then release the Alt or Option button. So if we go up to the Find box, and I hold down the Alt key, and I press the numbers 2, 5, 1, and then release it, hi-ya! There's the square root symbol. If you're looking for roots or stems specifically, this ninja weapon can be extremely useful. That concludes the information that I wanted to share with you in this video. If you like the video, please be sure to press the subscribe and like buttons. I would like to give special thanks to all our elders that have shared their knowledge with us. You are the language heroes to which we all aspire. I would also like to thank Dr. Unei for all the awesome work that has been provided, including the dictionary used in this video. And finally, I'd like to give special thanks to Air Jazz, aka Yaudene, for allowing me to use his music in my videos. I hope all Tlingi language learners keep learning and sharing the Tlingi language with one another, and you find positive and humble ways to express yourself on your language journey. Ich